Welcome once again to the Movies and Stuff Show. My name is Dan, and joining me is a man who is 100% legit, Abe.
That's right. Me and Rick Pitino, we're both 100% legit, Jan.
I think 4 people probably got that joke. Well, I mean, let's not go there.
Okay. We're not doing stuff today, right?
We're not doing stuff this week. We have a really jam-packed show lined up for you this week. We're actually going to be talking about the legacy of the HBO TV series Carnivàle. Later on, we're going to air an exclusive interview we did with the creator of the show, Dan Knauf, and that interview is robust. So we're cutting out the stuff for this week. So maybe we'll do extra stuff next week.
Oh.
It'll be an extra stuffed episode.
We are going to double stuff you people.
It's a double stuff next week,
yes.
Yeah. Carnivàle, set during the Great Depression. It follows the lives of 2 men, Ben Hawkins and Justin Crowe, as they slowly realize that they have a connection to each other that inevitably results in them meeting, trying to kill one another. Ben has joined up with a traveling circus after the death of his mother, and Justin is a Methodist preacher who aims to do God's work without fully realizing that he's actually better suited to play for the side of evil. Let's talk about first impressions. I'm going to admit this, that I missed Carnivàle when it was on the air. So when I found out that we were interviewing Dan Knauf a few weeks back, I took it upon myself as a good co-host of a web show to binge watch the whole series.
Yeah, that was fun. It was like, hey, guess what?
In a week.
Yeah, you've got a week to do this or not.
In a week, I binge watched the whole series so I can be prepared to talk about it, and I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. It really is a terrific series, and even though it was cut short before it could finish it out, I can easily say it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I think it's one of the best TV series that I've watched. I think it really hits on so many cylinders of a great TV series. So let's talk about you. When did you watch the series, and kind of what were your first impressions of it, and then what do you think of the show's legacy? So it's like a 3-part question here.
I've already lost. I can't remember. I didn't watch it when it was on the air either. I caught it later on, and I was immediately hooked. Just immediately hooked. Man, that world just pulled me right in. I'd never seen anything like it because it's a section of American history that we never see. I can't think of a good movie that's really about the Depression, honest to God, off the top of my head. Cinderella Man, you don't count. But no, it really just grabbed me, and I loved it. I actually binge watch it. I hate binge watching things, but that was a show that I binge watched the hell out of.
Yeah, and what do you think of the show's legacy? Do you think it stands up? It's been off the air for a decade now.
Wow. Yeah, no.
It's been 10 years since it's been off the air. Do you think it stands up as a great show of all time?
I think so. I think dating it in the Dust Bowl especially helps it achieve that
sure.
Timelessness. It doesn't feel dated at all. If it was set in a contemporary world,
right,
it would have felt dated. But I think it holds up today. I think it's going to hold up 20 years from now.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think just the story is just so magnificent. I love a lot of just the techniques that they used in the storytelling, the journeys, the polar opposite journeys of these 2 men, mm-hmm. of Ben and Justin, and how they actually are going separate paths that are just literally destined to collide. I mean, they're supposed to collide. Like that is right. God and the devil's intentions is for them to collide. And it's just hilarious that you have brother Justin, who is a very godly man, being raised to be a very godly man and thinks
Mm-hmm.
that he is doing the right thing for God when in essence he's an avatar for the devil.
He does think he's doing God's work for a time.
Right.
Yeah, for a time.
He eventually realizes and then you have Ben who has no idea what the hell's going on.
Doesn't want
And
any part of
it's
this. Yeah. But
now
yeah.
I guess like one of season 1 especially, you consider it a mystery show.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. They're trying to unravel this mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think season 2 becomes more about the hero's journey as opposed to unraveling this mystery. Like the mystery is, for the most part, unraveled in the first season,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the second season then is their journey, like
Right.
how they get to the end.
Yeah.
But the first season especially, it's great. The mystery just kind of like it's a slow burn, and you get clues, and you learn about new characters, and you go to different areas, which I thought was a great touch, was having as a traveling carnival.
Yeah. Yeah. It
What
was.
better way to track the forces of evil if you're traveling around and you need to find someone than use the guise of a carnival?
Yeah. It's a great idea. And you're right. It is a mystery. But it's also really surreal at the same time. It's a surreal mystery. You remember? Did you hear what Roush?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's Matt Roush on the TV Guide said it's the perfect show for those who thought Twin Peaks was too accessible. It's really just that far out there in that first season, especially because it's just, you're right. It's a mystery, and it's just kind of showing you little pieces here and there until it can bring the whole picture together. And it really works that way. It really works well.
That said, I really enjoyed about this, as opposed to, and I'm not going to bash Lost here because I am a fan of Lost, but what I liked about this compared to Lost is they would pose questions and they would answer them. You know, it was, and they kept mystery alive. But they didn't flood you with like a ton of stuff that, are they ever going to answer this? Mm-hmm. And one thing I think of in particular is how Ben's grandfather and his uncles died. You know, and in the episode they show you the graves, and he asks his grandmother, you know, well, how'd they die?
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't get into it. And you're thinking, oh, this is going to be like something that's going to, you know, maybe they'll answer, maybe they won't. And later on in the episode, you find the answer. Like, right. They didn't draw it out. They threw it out there as a piece of, you know, like suspenseful, and they answered it. Whereas in Lost, I probably wouldn't have gotten that answer by the series end. It wouldn't have been there.
You would have had to watch the bonus video to get that part. No, but you're absolutely right. And that's the strength of Carnivàle, at least how I feel when I'm watching it, is that you never feel like they're leading you astray or just messing with you. There's a very firm hand here controlling the story, right. The overall story. And you don't ever feel like things are just being thrown at you for weirdness sake. It's all building to something. You never doubt that for a minute.
I totally agree. And I know that Dan Knauf wasn't as aggressive, if you will, in the first season as he was with the second. He kind of took the reins in the second season.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that later. But the show itself, just, I mean, there are very few shows ever been on television that looked as beautiful as this show. I kind of feel that just the sets, the costumes, the cinematography, just the look, how they actually made the show. They tried to make it as if it was set, filmed in the 30s.
That was really, very clever.
And it gave it that feel of being set in the 30s, and I just really appreciate that. And I got my degree in history, so it's one of those things that I like historical touches like that. And it was neat. It was like looking at pictures. It really was looking like pictures from that time, and flipping through like a picture book of it. It's really fantastically done.
And I like that we still get some context of what's going on in the world outside their carnival. It's just it's the street level. Talking about Babe Ruth, talking about
the Bear Lewis fight.
The Bear Lewis fight. And didn't they talk about Ferdinand's assassination at some point? I swear they did.
Yeah, I think so. They had a lot of just outside stuff, which was just great. It really tied it into reality, because the show, as magical as it was rooted in reality.
That's it's
And that's so crucial
yeah.
to it being such a great show. And before we move on to the next topic, I just want to know: did you have like a favorite scene, like anything that you can just like say that scene did it for me?
You know, the scene that did it for me, but I don't think by itself would mean anything to anybody. The scene, especially in the first season, that really is like, holy shit, this is awesome. It's just when Apollonia says Sophie. That scene to me just like chills.
Yeah, yeah.
That means, oh shit, it's about to pop off.
I mean, and
Yeah.
I was watching it, and I was telling you as I was watching it, so you knew leading up to what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where Ben brings the boy back from the dead after the carousel accident.
Yeah.
I mean,
That hit you pretty hard, huh?
that was I couldn't believe what I was watching on TV. I was so like it was so emotional, and it was just so well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't ham-fisted, and it wasn't like sappy. It seemed the natural evolution of this character. Like that had to happen for him.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced in just for good TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was the natural evolution of the character. And then it was great fucking television on top of that.
Absolutely. You know? The other scene I think that is amazing in the show is when Brother Justin is confronting Norman, and he shows him his greatest sin in the church.
Mm.
Dude,
Oh,
that's
geez.
yeah. I don't know how spoiler we should get about a show that's been off the air for 10 years.
Oh, we can talk. I mean, we're
well,
gonna
let's
get,
just-
we're
yeah.
gonna we're gonna get into it.
We're going to throw spoilers out right now. The father, the man that helped raise Justin's greatest sin in his life was saving Justin's
Justin.
life. Yeah, saving Justin's life. That was the biggest sin he committed, was allowing Justin and Iris to live.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is so fucking good.
Because Justin's whole arc changes right there.
So good.
Yeah.
Like I mean Justin, it's great. Is he's talking with who was he talking with? It was Tommy Dolan. He's talking with Tommy Dolan, and he says something along the lines of, "I'm reminded of the phrase making a deal with the devil." and Tommy,
Yeah.
without missing a beat, he's like, "Oh, I'm not that bad."
Fantastic.
That's so good. Let's talk about the devil. Let's talk about the Battle of Light and Dark. And on the surface, this series, especially from the marketing standpoint of it, just appears to be about the lives of a traveling circus or carnival, and that is true. You get a great insight into the lives of this traveling carnival in this time period. But as I mentioned earlier, the carnival is actually being used by a man called Management to track the forces of evil in this ongoing battle of good and evil. And I think it's summed up in the first line of the show, the first like opening monologue, if you will, by Samson, talking, about what this is all about. It's an ongoing battle of good and evil between the devil and God. And this carnival, moving around from place to place, presented itself as the perfect method to pursue these avatars from the devil, and also find the next generation of the avatars of light and dark. I mentioned earlier, I love the kind of the juxtaposition of Brother Justin and Ben's journeys, and the fact is that it's Justin Crow versus Ben Hawkins.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I mean, this whole concept of the Battle of Light and Dark and the bomb dropping is kind of originally seen as the end of the world, but it's actually not. It's just the end of their world. It's the end of magic. It's God doing the ultimate mic drop and saying, "Peace, humans, you got this now."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think even the opening kind of the tarot cards showing the sun and the moon, the light and the darkness. This is the central key of the show, Battle of Light and Dark.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess, yeah, the nuclear test is going to bring an end to that old way of that old good and evil, and we're going to have to deal with new problems now.
Yeah.
Probably with a little bit more of a nuanced eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's fantastic. You're right. It's just this cycle that humanity's been stuck in since the beginning of time. Was it you that said Cain and Abel?
I brought that up to Knauf in the interview. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, you're right. Since page 6 of the Bible, we've been stuck in this damn war of good and evil. And you're right. It's such a perfect time, because when we did that nuclear test, that really did change everything. The nuclear age, that's what we fucking call it. I mean, come on. Yeah. It's just a brilliant twist.
No, it really is. And it's one of those things that, going into the series, I didn't even really know what to expect. I was working in New York City at the time that this show was on, and the marketing for it was tremendous. Billboards, buses, sides of bus stops, everything, and you'd see this imagery, and it was beautiful imagery, like great marketing material, great looking marketing material. But I couldn't, for the life of me, know what the fuck this show was about. So as well marketed, well, as heavily marketed as it was, I think it was off the mark in regards to letting us know. If I would have known that this was like literally a battle of, God and the devil set in the, Depression, and like if I knew that, I probably would have watched it while it was on the air.
Marketing people, man.
This was, I don't want to sell short the fact that this was about a traveling carnival, because you do get some really great, and especially the family that's there with the mother and the two daughters.
The Dreyfus family.
The Dreyfus family. I mean, that stuff, and that was added in. Like, that was added in after the original concept of the show. They were added in. I think they brought in like someone who knew carnivals from that time. They asked, like, well, do you have one of these? And they're like, what is one of these?
It's a Cooch show.
Good show, yeah. So I think that's pretty fascinating. Is that they really did research it, and they found, this is the life, or this is the potential life of carny folk back in the 30s.
Yeah,
and it was a tremendous time. I mean, because no one really had the money. They were traveling around, and then. The fact is that they're being led around by this kind of a man behind the curtain, literally.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing stuff.
It was. And of course, it was Linda Hunt behind the curtain.
Yeah. Topic 3, we'll go our best episodes or things that didn't work. So it's see, we did the light in the. We just covered the light in the dark.
The balance, yeah.
Gonna find the balance. Let's talk about our favorite episodes, things that didn't work. You started off. What were your favorite episodes?
My favorite episode of the whole show, hands down, is that season 1 finale. And that's just because it's been such a journey to this point of Ben fighting every step of the way to accept who he is. He fights everything. He fights any kind of romantic entanglements, like from Ruthie. He fights friendships from Sophie. He fights everything. He doesn't want to trust Samson. But at the end of the show, because of management and loads, he actually has to step up to the plate and do what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good thing. And then, Sophie and Apollonia, Jonesy running into the bus. It's just so tremendous. That is my favorite episode. It might be one of my favorite season finales ever.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, there to me, there weren't any that I felt were weak. I watched this show, and as I was going through it, I didn't feel any weakness in this show. The ones that stand out the most to me, I think, would have to be the Babylon ones.
That's a tremendous little...
The Babylon duo, if you will. I think those are the ones that stand out the most to me in season 1 especially.
Yeah.
As ones that were just like kicks to the gut, and then honestly, The finale, the season 2 finale.
Oh,
And we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think the season 2 finale is honestly like one of my favorites of the whole series. You know,
it was good. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, what about things that didn't work? You said nothing. You had no issues at all.
It's not to say that I had no issues at all.
Okay.
I do think as I was watching it, like Nick Stahl, who played Ben Hawkins.
Yeah.
I think it took him a while to really grow into the character, which I didn't have an issue with, though. I didn't have an issue with that because I think the character itself had to grow. But I think early on, his performance was not that strong. And as the show went on and his character developed more, he did more with it. But those earlier episodes, kind of a stiff performance from him. But again, I forgive it more because I feel like the character had to develop as well. I think that's one of the things that kind of stuck out in season 1. I didn't mind the pacing of season 1. I know a lot of people have had issues with the pacing, and I know a lot of people had issues with the big dust storm episode, and how that played out, and how they didn't like that. I didn't see that. I enjoyed the pace. I enjoyed the pacing. I enjoyed the how it unfolded in season 1. I agree that season 2 was super well paced. Completely to the point, got things going, journey on the road, boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. Really well done too. I had no issues with the pacing of season 1. What didn't work for you? Like,
I don't know. I do actually feel some pacing issues here. Not in season 1, like everybody says. Season 2, it seemed to meander a little too much to me. At the point when the show, I feel like, could really be rocking, it stops to hang out with a mask maker. I wasn't crazy about that. I thought that was just too big of a left turn. But that's what I have. Like, it's building momentum. I mean, we're seeing it, all the pieces, getting into the right place. It slows down here and there too much in some episodes. I mean, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's just keep the momentum building. That was my big problem. And I think that stems from this idea, like joining. They joined the other carnival in that one episode. I think that stems from the idea, and I think a lot of creators fall into this trap, is when you introduce a big mythology to a show, the characters and their interactions are going to start taking a back seat to the mythology. At least in the mind of the fans. The fans are going to instantly become more interested in how the mythology works than the characters anymore. We've seen it time and time again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any likable or relatable characters in the show. I mean, obviously there has to be. But like you cited Lost earlier. Nobody gave a shit about those characters or their relationships. It was, what's the mystery about, Which
is a shame, and maybe we got to talk about Lost some other time, because it was the backstories. Originally, it was the backstories and the flashbacks and learning about these people and why they're on this island and why they're interacting that made that series so strong. And then
once the mythology starts to get in there, it all takes a backseat.
Yeah, right. I could see how even in this series, though, that they probably felt even a little pressed for time, where they probably wanted to expand more on some of these characters and their backstories more so. And they I think originally they were supposed to have 16 episodes for season 2.
Yeah, and they got it cut. Yeah,
cut it down.
They got Arrested Development.
So with that, it's tough to be able to do that, and I could see your frustration of that one episode in particular, the one with the mask, even though that dude was so fucking creepy.
He was creepy. And another little issue I have is character development just in season 2 at the carnival was, who do I hate this episode, Rita Sue or Stumpy? We're gonna flip flop. Every other episode it's gonna be, Rita Sue's the bad guy this time. Oh no, it's Stumpy this week. And I like that, characters can be good and they can be bad, but
Sure.
that was a little much in my mind. But no, I mean, other than that, and these are minor nitpicks.
No, yeah, I know.
mean, yeah. Usually if I don't like a show, I just stop watching it.
True. Let's move on to topic 4. We were talking about some of the cast members anyway, and let's talk about some of our favorites. And I mean, this is just a fantastic ensemble cast. Clancy Brown puts on such a terrific performance.
Oh, yeah.
As I mentioned, Nick Stahl starts off kind of slow, but I think he grows into it. He shines. I think by that, by season 2, he's really putting on a fine performance. I loved Tim DeKay as Jonesy.
Mm-hmm.
Great character, great performance there. And I know him as Bizarro Jerry from Seinfeld. That's what I know him from.
He hangs out at Reggie's.
Yeah. Patrick Bacaw, who's Lods. Lods, fantastic.
Oh yeah,
fantastic character. Gone before his time, but in the same sense, I do feel that it was executed perfectly. I was sad to see him go, but I think his exit from the show was just spot on. John Carroll Lynch played character Varlin Stroud very well. Such a cold motherfucker.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually just recently noticed him as an actor because he was on an episode of The Walking Dead, like one of the best episodes of The Walking Dead in past few years.
Set a high bar there, Dan.
I threw that one. I lobbed that one.
You did, yeah.
But he's really shined in that episode. He was in this one episode. He's really good, and I was like, oh, he's a good actor. And then he played John Wayne Gacy in American Horror Story. And I'm like, wow, this guy's awesome. So when he shows up as Varlin Stroud in Carnival with me watching it, I'm like, man, this guy's been doing this for that long. That's awesome. That scene where he's at the gas station.
Oh, yeah.
And he kills the robbers, and the gas station attendant is all thanking him, and he kills the gas station attendant. It's so fucking good.
He shoots Bonnie and Clyde and just keeps walking like no big deal.
So fucking good. Really good. Robert Knepper as Tommy Dolan, mentioned him earlier. He was just totally badass, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite in the series, though, had to be Michael J. Anderson as Samson. I think his performance as Samson, just my favorite in the series. What about what performance was your favorite?
I'm taking you to task on this one, I got to say. I think Nick Stahl's performance as Hawkins is awesome.
Really? Start to finish?
Start to finish.
Wow.
Because, yes, but he's playing a guy that's totally closed in. He is totally afraid. He is totally full of anger. He's so messed up that he just does not want to be open with anybody at all. And I think that's a hell of a performance, and he does it. And he's not only is he just angry and scared the whole time, but he's also so vulnerable. He's so easily hurt that he just closes up completely. He desperately wants, to belong to a sane family, I guess. And that's what his draw to Ruthie is. I mean, Ruthie is to him the maternal influence that he never had, mm-hmm. and also a sexual attraction to her. He wants a mom, but he also wants to get laid. This is really good, a really good performance by him, because he's afraid and he feels guilty, and all these emotions are just banging around in him when he's attracted to a woman. It's really good. I
don't think it was a bad performance. Early on I felt it was a little stiff, and that he really grew into the character over time, and it was a great performance. I mentioned, by season 2, I was in love with the character. I was in love with his performance of it. I thought it was really great.
You're so right. To watch him grow into that and to becoming comfortable with himself is really good. But Jesus, man, look at Loads, awesome. Stumpy, Rita Sue,
mm-hmm.
And
whole family.
A performance that is oddly compelling is Apollonia. Her face frozen in horror.
Oh my God, so good.
Yeah, all she's got is one face, really, but wow,
can't believe how such a great performance, and she's just lying there the whole time.
I know. She can
really, yeah. I remember when I was watching that, I was mentioning that to you. We had a conversation about it. It's I can't believe how good that performance is. It's so bizarre.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just a great overall cast. Let's move on to our last topic, and this I mentioned it earlier, the finale,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll actually be ranking our favorite TV series finales on next week's episode.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna put a spoiler warning out there. I think, yeah, this is gonna be on the list for me. Great series finale, even
Yeah.
though it was open ended. The series itself was cut short. I think it worked for me because we know that the battle is going to keep going on
Mm-hmm.
until that bomb eventually drops. And since this is based in reality, it's based in history, they've established that. We know that the bomb is going to drop, and we know that it's going to kill the magic that they've been living in. It's just powerful stuff. I think leaving it to our imaginations is really fine to me to fill in those dots until that bomb eventually. They're not going to stop it. It's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they keep fighting and they kill each other and another generation comes or whatever it is, uh, just golden for me. And that scene with Ben draining Justin's powers to cure people,
Yeah.
I cried like a baby.
No shit.
No, I'm not even joking. Tearing as it was just so beautiful. It really was.
It was. Yeah.
Scene. So powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have read that some people hated the turn that Sophie took, but I thought that was good. I thought it was needed for her. I think she needed to make that turn.
Yeah, Sophie's a really interesting question to me. She's asserting herself like a spoiled child. Like, your mom is telling you exactly what's going to happen in the future, and you're like, oh, you don't know. It's like, I think that's interesting. I mean, there's obviously some emotional blackmail from her mom going on. I also wonder if somehow she's psychically stunting her a little bit to keep some, because, Justin and Ben the whole time are getting more and more images and visions of what they're moving towards. And she doesn't. She's kind of behind those two. I really think that Apollonia-Sophie relationship is really interesting. And so she's just, you're right. She's asserting herself right now. And, sometimes you assert yourself not always in positive ways.
Well, it's amazing, though, too, is if you look at the arc of Sophie and the arc of Ben, and they both find their fathers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They both find their fathers. So, I mean, Sophie inadvertently finds her father while Ben is looking for her father. Mm-hmm. And their fathers end up being the, both avatars of dark.
That's true.
Funny enough.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Sophie, in theory, it seems like a generational thing where it's light, dark. Sophie ends up dark, and her father's dark.
Mm-hmm. But if anybody's actually curious, and you haven't, go to the AV Club and read Knauf's interview. Mm-hmm. Knauf explains exactly where the show. I mean,
listen to our interview with him first.
Well, yeah,
and then go read.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Don't stop this. Watch
There's
this. There's
very little overlap between our interview
yeah.
with him and the AV. There's seriously very little, but the AV, he really goes into it. It's so in depth, and he goes into the avatars and the whole generational thing and how avatars are chosen and how there's a bloodline, and sometimes they have to skip because the bloodline, isn't as strong and things like that. So it's fucking fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And it explains why Sophie's the end. What she's going to end up doing with Ben. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And if that was the case, me and you discussed this, if they continued the show on and that was going to be the ending, like I kind of gave you my idea of I think that would be great, how the show could end with the bomb dropping, and then, it's the show would have to end with Samson. Like the final scene would have to be Samson. Mm-hmm. And in the dossier, if you will, the show outline, they had this interview that Samson does in the 70s about the carnival life, and that would have been a perfect way to end the show, I think, with him talking about it and talking about the events and,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm Carnivàle out. Do you have anything else about Carnivàle? Do you have any other final thoughts on Carnivàle?
Not really, no. I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts about it, but I think I've exhausted mine.
Yeah. If I think of anything else, I'll mention it in the comments or something like that. But
cool.
I think overall, tremendous TV series. I'm glad that I watched it recently. that we got a chance to talk to Dan Knauf. So that's it. Stay tuned for our exclusive interview with Dan Knauf. We're going to call it a night, folks. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Stay tuned for the Dan Knauf interview. Abe, see you later.
Bye-bye. Joining us now on the Movies and Stuff show, writer, producer, and creator of the show Carnivàle, Daniel Knauf. Dan, thanks so much for joining us to talk about one of my favorite series of all time.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate being on, man.
It's been over a decade since Carnival was last on the air. As you look back at that, the show not being on the air for a decade, what do you think of the show's legacy now?
Well, I mean, it's incredibly gratifying. We really, everybody on the show is, Carnival was a weird thing because it was my first gig. I mean, I'd never done TV before, really, and I'd never really done much of anything, and in show business, and so it was kind of like I just thought, oh well, this is how TV is, and it wasn't until I'd worked on subsequent shows that I realized just how special the show was, and that when you work on shows, everybody's a gypsy, and they're moving from show to show. And you'll be on a set, and people, they have about 85% of their head in the game, and the other 15% is lining up the next gig. So they'll be on their cell phone, so they'll be thinking about other stuff. And a lot of shows are not shows that you're really super proud of. It's just feeding the family shows. And so that's really the rule. And on Carnival, what was really interesting is everybody involved. I mean, everybody involved really brought it. I mean, everybody's head there was sort of like a very special thing, because everybody was saying, okay, this is an this is a very, very special show, and this is an opportunity for me to really do my best work. And I've been on many shows since, and I would see something. Usually when you publish white pages on a new draft, people you'll walk around and everybody's sitting around, they got their highlighters out, and then, prop guys highlighting all the props, and the actors are highlighting their lines. People are just sort of highlighting the shit I gotta do, and on Carnival, the most extraordinary thing is I would walk around and they'd just be sitting there reading it. I mean, they'd be reading it like a novel. Everybody would just be, oh, whoa, I can't believe that's what's happening next. I mean, they were completely engaged by the story, and so it doesn't surprise me entirely that the show's, it gratifies me. I'm glad that the show is so well regarded so many years after its cancellation, but and it's fun to see it kind of creep up on all the internet lists of shows canceled before their time or shows ahead of their time. It's like I think we started out like number 19 on the first one. I think we like crept up to like number 7. It's fun to watch that process. But the number of people I still get. People saying this was the best show ever. This is the best show that's ever been on TV. I don't even know if I agree with that, but but the fact that some people feel that way, makes me feel pretty good, because my job description is to, essentially is to move and entertain people, and to pay forward being moved and entertained by all the writers who did that for me. And so the fact that, sort of mission accomplished, good,
Right.
Nice. So, yeah, it's good. The short answer is, yeah, it's super cool.
Speaking of Carnival's legacy, I think another one it had was one of the first shows that I remember, the way it would interact with its fan base online, through the old Yahoo group.
That to HBO's horror.
Yeah.
I see. The thing is I I'm a real late bloomer. I mean, I was a health insurance broker for 22 years. I was a fan of TV long. I mean, I've been a consumer of entertainment much longer than I've been a manufacturer of entertainment. And so I was, since the early 90s, I was really, engaged in bulletin boards and, chat and all kinds of fun stuff on the internet.
Nice.
And so when the show went, I just continued, and I just continued interacting with people. And I remember this is way back when. And I mean, HBO had never, it's sort of like, oh God, no, you don't talk to those people. What are you, 14? What's the matter with you? And so, yeah, I mean, I was interacting. I think that especially social networks, which to me, are probably the most profound, exciting, invention of my lifetime. In that, as a mass media artist, I'm now able to engage my audience one-on-one. It's like, being, those country western guys, they'll have their show and then afterwards they have a meet and greet, and you get to step up and ask them a question, talk to them and stuff like that. We've been denied that in the mass media for forever. And now it's just, you can do that with fans and really get to know some of these people. Granted, some people are not nice, and some people are right. Downright scary. I have a rule. It's like 10% of the human race are assholes, and then 1% are bona fide monsters. And so it seems to hold pretty true. So, the show I'm on right now, you have 15 million viewers, do the math, it's like, okay, let's be careful, we don't want to poke the dog too hard with a stick. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think the good outweighs the bad, And so, yes, we were very active and the weird thing is that in HBO, I remember when we were in our second year and we were on the bubble. I mean, we were always on the fucking bubble. And they said, well, we can't quite understand it. I mean, let me give you a sense of the time the show was on. There was nothing on TV but cops, lawyers, and doctors. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the world Carnival came into. So, I mean, this show, if it came out 3-4 years after it did, I think it would have done, better. But that was the milieu. I mean, that was the context of Carnival: cops, doctors, lawyers, and then it would be like. And so there's the HBO. I call them up one day, and then I go, so what are we going to do at Comic-Con? And the head of their P&A goes, "What's Comic-Con?" Oh, it's like, okay, so this is the Dark Ages. Dinosaurs ruled the earth, and that's when the show came out. And so when I was in there and they were going, well, the ratings aren't really what we hoped for. Of course the bar was set at, they expected Sopranos numbers, which just, now that's not going to happen with a genre show, Right. We're disappointed in the ratings, but we really don't understand what's going on the internet. And then you say, well, what do you mean what's going on the internet? And they said, well, we have more activity on the Carnival boards than we do on all our other shows combined. And I said, well, I'd venture to say that's probably a good thing, it seems to me stands to reason. But unfortunately, back then they didn't have any matrices, they didn't have any matrices set up to somehow, draw some sort of conclusion that that translated out to dollars. So they just it was just a completely irrelevant piece of information.
God, crazy.
But yeah, it was a first in a lot of things.
Right. Well, that whole social media that I guess you kind of helped kickstart with connecting with fans. It's a two-way street now, and it's a really odd place. In that if a fan doesn't necessarily like some of your ideas, they'll unite against you. I'm thinking of the Marvel CEO who got himself in hot water a couple weeks back. Like
oh, really? I didn't know about this.
Yes, he made a donation to a charity drive that was hosted by Trump, and now people are demanding his resignation. And how do we gauge that with interacting? I mean, with the fans and creators interacting, how do we gauge this? Is it good? I mean, shouldn't there be some mystery here?
Well, first of all, what you're dealing with is in those situations, you're getting astroturfed. I mean, I've seen situations where people don't like the direction the show is going, and you'll have one person who's got like 19 sock puppets and spends all their time talking to themselves, and they've got all their troll friends who have 19 sock puppets, and they'll drum up a lot of noise on the internet, and they'll say, the show is show's jumped the shark, we want to see this, and we're just gonna it'll be this. They'll build up some sort of meal, or we want somebody to resign, or we want somebody this, or we want somebody's head on a platter, and it's this big thing, and then finally one of them that will get their gumption up, and they'll say, well, I've put together this letter, and be sure to you can use the wording in the letter, but don't attribute it to me, and change it up a little bit, because we want this to feel like a grassroots campaign. Right, yeah. And so send it to the following officers at the network or the studio, and well, but we're gonna get it, and it's like a fart in a fucking windstorm. Like there's 5 people. I guarantee you there might be a lot of noise on the internet, but at the end of the day, the cards and letters coming into Marvel demanding this guy resign, I would say if they got 20, it would be shocking to me. And so, really what happens at the end of the day is you're given this choice. You can just sort of give it a big shrug and say thank you, send them a letter that says thank you very much for your concern, and or have basically have the studio or network send that letter, or at worst case scenario, if you say something that's stupid or hurtful, which occasionally happens, we all do that,
right?
And you own it, and you go online and you say, hey, you know what? If I hurt anybody's feelings, I'm really sorry about that. It wasn't my intent. If you get somebody where it's wholly manufactured rage that's driven by some other thing, politics or whatever, then you just have some you have some flack, put together a very stilted apology that clearly you didn't write, and then you just cut and paste that in, and it's basically yes, it says to whom it may concern, I am deeply apologetic for any, and basically the subtext of that particular text or tweet or whatever is fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and fuck you too. I don't know. I think the internet's beautifully self-correcting. I mean, if somebody texts me something that's really insulting or a veiled threat or something that's beyond the ken, I immediately retweet it. Which gives that person who has 4 followers, now he's got a much larger number of followers. And so the best way to deal with cockroaches is to pick up the rock and let the sun kill them, and then everybody will pile on. So everybody kind of polices, it polices itself,
Excellent. I love that.
That's great. Yeah. Now, is there anything now that you look back and you wish that you could have changed anything about what you did with the series, or are you just content with what it was for those 2 seasons that you had it on the air?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's things I would have done differently, but not really creatively. I think that I'm a little bit, I was very scared, because I was really a fish out of water. I didn't understand the language and the politics of this business the way I do now. I was kind of feeling my way through it. I remember sending a memo. That was just, we're going to be, doing this. It was just like a nothing memo. And then getting called to the mat by one of the non-writing executive producers who said, you don't put the recipients in that order. You've got to do it in the following order. And it was like, oh, well, welcome to the court of Louis XIV. Okay, we're doing kabuki theater here, but that's the way it is in Hollywood. And so unless you know these things, you're constantly being, having the rug pulled out from you and being reminded that you don't know dick. And so, in that regard, I would have asserted myself a little bit differently, and that might have had an effect on some of the episodes, primarily the Black Blizzard episode, which the original script was probably one of the best scripts that was. Bill Schmidt wrote it, and it was exquisite. And due to the wrong director and due to a lot of misunderstandings about, what we were trying to do with it, there were a lot of changes made that pretty much gutted it. And so in that regard, it would have been a slight. By the second season, though, I'd kind of, Ron had gone off to Battlestar Galactica. I was running the show, and I'd pretty much had that really reflected my intent more. So season two kind of loses its way around episode 3 through 7. It just sort of meanders off, and there's a lot of stuff that's sort of weird for weird's sake, and a lot of groping going on that I would probably dial in on if I redid it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But overall, though, not a lot. I had amazing. I just had I had a stellar staff. I had the best production people money could buy. We had an absurdly large budget for the time, and we made some really good TV. So I'm very proud of it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
That said, if I sat there and I redid it, I guarantee you, I'd probably upset as many people. It's like I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna do a George Lucas on this shit. It ain't broke.
Nice. I like asking. You're here. I want to ask them in-universe questions because I think Brother Justin is probably the most fascinating character on the show. And right next to him is Iris. And Iris specifically set off that chain of events that led Justin to realizing...
wait, before you ask your question, you've got the question. I'm going to tell you some really trippy shit.
Yes.
Do you want to know who else read for Brother Justin?
No, who?
John Ritter read.
Are you shitting?
I did hear that. Yeah, I did hear that.
John Ritter read. Now, he would have been a really interesting Brother Justin.
He would have been.
I guarantee you. And then the other guy was Keir DeLay read.
Oh, Dave.
And it was between him and Clancy at the end.
Oh, wow.
And he was a much more icy Brother Justin, And the third guy that read was Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
And I remember Bruce coming in. We were auditioning Samson's that day. So he walks in, and there's probably a dozen little people in there with their girlfriends, which are generally little people. So there's it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like every little person in Hollywood is in the waiting room. And Bruce walks in, freezes. He goes, "Whoa, get a load of all the freaks." And it was like, I was thinking they were going to jump him. They did not see the humor in it.
Oh, my God.
I did, but I didn't dare laugh. Anyway, okay, onward. Yeah, you actually have a meaningful question.
I don't know if it's meaningful. I just want to know. Iris kickstarts that chain of events that caused Justin to go down that path where he realizes, he embraces the demon is me. If Iris wasn't in Justin's life, could he have lived as maybe an overzealous and hypocritical preacher, but continued to think of himself as a godly man?
Yes, he could.
Yeah.
If he had the will to do it. I think the way that I sort of design these avatars is that they default to the dark or they default to the light. And we can only imagine how difficult it would be if you always default to the bad thing. If that's your instinct, if it's as instinctive as somebody tossing a baseball to you and you catching it, okay? If that's your default and you actually have to put some mental work into going, oh, no, I'm not going to do that, eventually you always end up riding the horse in the direction it's going. And so he would have, I kind of like, the idea of there's avatars that are really effective. Like Jesus, okay, super Buddha, super effective avatars of light, who embrace it and are really good at it, and also are smart. They have all the other human components that make them effective, or charismatic, for that matter. I mean, just because you're an avatar doesn't mean you're born with, Will Smith charisma, and then there's avatars that just aren't very good at it. They just don't get it, and they generally are. And an example of that is Ben's father.
Scudder,
Yeah.
So Scudder was just a piss poor avatar.
Yeah.
And so, they're just like anybody else. You got incompetent people and you got super competent people, So I think Brother Justin, he was much more competent once he embraced it,
Oh, yeah.
And, and so his sister's kind of, in the end, she's Dr. Frankenstein. She's kind of, all of a sudden she becomes a victim of the monster.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. And it's fascinating too, like just, thinking about the avatars and thinking about,
Plus she's shit crazy too. Yeah. Females with avatar blood in them just don't do real well.
That's right. But speaking of that, like, was there any discussions? Was there any thought about, like, if the show went on longer, flashing back more, seeing some more examples of these avatars throughout time? I know one of the message boards had mentioned, like, possibly a Cain and Abel type story of these avatars. Was there any discussion about trying to show some more of the past, or was it more?
No, I mean, we chose our moments, the stuff like the Crusaders, the Knights Templar stuff that we threw in there. As long as it serves the story, I mean, I would have gone there if, oh, well, gosh, we really can't tell this story effectively unless we show this, but I can't imagine just doing it for the hell of it. Right. You know what I mean? The Knights Templar stuff actually served the story we were telling.
Right. Yeah. Really well to integrate it into it. Yeah.
But sure. I love what the fans did. I mean, the fans would go back and they would start picking. Okay, who was a good avatar and who was a bad? Oh, Caligula. Yeah, he probably.
That was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it was a neat discussion, because then you get people and they're kind of creating this whole alternate Bible and alternate cosmology. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went to with a friend. Tracy Torme, who we used to write for Star Trek: The Next Generation, has the distinction of inventing the holodeck. Tracy invented the holodeck.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And Tracy and I went to this thing. He dreaded it. It was like, God, I don't want to go to this convention. It's a 35th year or something. And we're up in Seattle. And I went up and I'm looking. I'm seeing these people are making these, not just costumes. I mean, really, really good costumes. Better than costumes because they're not just for one shot. They're wearable, a wardrobe and makeup and hair and props, and they're fabricating these things. And I'm going, well, look at this. Here's Roddenberry. He's like a dandelion. And here's all these, inspiring creativity and all these people. and what a wonderful thing it is. And I mean, of course, on Carnival, I've never had anything even remotely of that scale, but it's always gratifying to see that your work inspires creativity in other people, you know. The little tapes, I mean, they've actually, one person said, hey, check this out, and put together a little, you know, montage. I forget to what song. And I was in tears when I finished it. It was so beautifully done. I was just like, it just took my breath away at the time. And I mean, stuff like that just makes me feel, that makes my whole day, you know?
Yeah, and Carnival, you know, gave me one of the most crushing moments I think I've ever seen on TV when I see Dora May's fate in Babylon. It is just crushing.
Oh, that's all Michael.
Is it?
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Look at that. The look on his face of just absolute. It's like he's just been instantly hollowed out. Yeah. It's like the look of anguish on his face is just, oh my God. I mean,
great acting.
It was just an amazing moment they captured. So, I mean, it was good. My personal favorite moment in the movie, or the whole series, was when after the Ferris wheel accident.
Oh,
it was beautifully directed by Scott Wynant, and the little girl, or no, actually, I think that's Rodrigo. I'm not sure who, but it was beautifully directed, and the woman gives her life for the boy, and it was, every time I see that, I just, you know, sometimes it all just comes together, you know.
Yeah. Between that scene and the scene where Ben is just healing people in the tent and draining like Brother Justin of his power.
That was Scott. Just like, we had we were flying well, you know, see, on Carnival, what we did is we always treated the camera as if it weighed 500 pounds, because we wanted to kind of give it the look of a 30s show, and that's what cameras weighed in the 30s. So we shot a lot on sticks. There's a lot of stillness in the crane shots and things like that. We try to execute things that would be done on a big Condor crane. You know, we didn't fly the camera around or do a lot of Steadicam. We didn't do a lot of Steadicam on Carnival, but in that shot we flew the camera around with a Steadicam. We were going around in circles around Ben, and then so you have these horizontal circles that Scott designed the shot. He's doing these horizontal circles. Meanwhile, you've got Brother Justin doing these vertical circles on the Ferris wheel. And when we started intercutting, it was just gorgeous.
So it really is.
This is just the art of a shot design when you have, you know, really, really good directors and DPs on deck, you know.
So amazing. So such powerful stuff. And you know, it's funny too, is I know you've discussed this before as well, is how HBO kind of pushed you to kill off LODs. And it's funny now, is seeing HBO's biggest show right now is kind of known for killing off its characters, and a ton of networks seem to be doing it as well. But do you think, and this is very much pun intended, that it's a bit overkill to have to kill off your characters like that?
Well, Loads. I had plans for Loads. Mm-hmm. I mean, Loads was supposed to make it all the way through the series, and at the end of the day, they made a very compelling argument, very compelling creative argument, and I think they were right at the end of the day. So, you know, when you're working, you know, when you're working with the network, when you're working with the studio, these people are not stupid. I mean, as much you can have writers tell you all day long stupid note stories, all day long, and the reason they remember those stories is because they're generally the exceptions to the rule. Okay, most of the time you get either very reasonable notes or sometimes notes where you're kicking yourself till Sunday, going, "Why didn't I think of that?" Okay, it's just not as fun a story, you know, to talk about, you know, that time that, you know, some executive at Warner Brothers, you know, came up with a much better idea than you did. You know, but it really does happen every day. And in this case with Loads, they sat down and we had a conversation, and I said, you know what, you guys are right. You know, we're going to have to bump them off. So,
oh, man.
It was a great scene, and hearing the plans of potentially if the show went on longer, like him kind of being like the body of John Wilkes Booth showing up at like I loved that. I thought that was a really cool like way of bringing him back if the show went on. So
we had this great idea. It was so we were going to have him in a glass coffin.
Yeah.
and then we were going to bury it. And we were going to have a scene. It was very somber. And you see this glass coffin, and they put it down in the hole, and they cover it up with dirt. And Ben and Samson are standing over it, and they're talking to each other about loads and this and that. And all of a sudden you hear a sound. It feels like, thump, and it's like the glass broke, and you just see the ground drop by about a foot. I just so wanted to do that.
Oh my God! That's great. That's great. I have another question about loads. When Apollonia was losing her control over Sophie, why did she summon Loads? Why did she talk to Loads about what was going on? I wouldn't trust Loads to babysit my goldfish. I mean, what was she doing?
Well, Loads is a very complex character. Loads is, I mean, he was modeled after the Colonel in Bridge on the River Kwai.
Oh, okay.
Loads wants to do the right thing. Loads is a man of honor, and Loads is a man is a moral man. Mm-hmm. But he's just really badly mistaken. And that's where I wanted to take him. If I taken him to where I wanted to take him on that same arc. Is that moment where, oh my God, I've been playing for the wrong team all this time, you know, and that would have been, you know, a wonderful moment after 6 years. But I realized I could do that with other characters. I didn't need to do a full 6-year arc to get to that point with somebody. So I was willing to, you know, throw that baby out with the bathwater, you know, because there will be other babies.
So just to settle my own curiosity, did management know who Sophie was?
Management knows pretty much everything.
Okay, I just was curious.
Yeah, I mean, management knows all, sees all, but the problem with management is he can see the forest. He's really good at the forest, but he can't see the trees. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in his interpretation of the stakes is inside out. He really, you know, what he thinks is going to happen is he thinks that is what's at stake is the end of mankind, and what he's actually seeing is the end of avatar kind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you know, self-destruction and universal destruction in a lot of ways are the same thing. I mean, if you commit suicide, you destroy the world and everything in it for you. So that's the thing you got mixed up on. Oh. You know, that was really profound this early in the morning.
That was really good. Oh man.
Oh God help me. I don't want to believe my own bullshit. Oh no.
Oh man. You know, a couple of weeks back we had Ron Moore on. To talk about some of his Star Trek work. And he did mention Carnival a little bit. What he said I found really interesting. He said that half the writers in the room hated the other half. Was it really that intense of a writer's room? No. Ron
came up in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
And in the Star Trek universe, I think that they fostered friction between the writers. There was a lot of competition. It was episodic TV, so you could afford to do that, you know? And I think that they had that, you know, hey, without any friction, there's no heat. We really, I think that, of course, you know, we had, this room was full of showrunners. Don and Nicole had run Max Bickford. Bill had run Prey. Tracy ran Sliders. I mean, everyone was a showrunner level. Wow. So you had a room full of chiefs, and it's really hard to get everybody to row in the same direction. It's a challenge. In season 2, though, what I did, I didn't come up in Star Trek. I came up. I came up in the business world, and in the business world, we try to minimize conflict and foster cooperation and inspire cooperation, and everybody started rowing in the same direction. It was pretty stunning. The work that was being done. So no, I wouldn't characterize it that way. There was but again, you've got strong personalities, and so if you have disagreements, they're going to be strong disagreements. But there was never any real hostility that I discerned in the room, So yeah, I disagree with Ron. I mean, maybe he's misremembering it. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm looking out through rose-colored glasses. But I've seen worse since. I mean, I've seen much worse. Much worse.
We've kept you for a while. We got 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
I mean, where you're actually talking to somebody, they're just going, I hate that guy. I hate him. Pounding on a desk with a trembling fist.
Excellent.
It's like I don't even know if I've met anybody I hate. Yeah, calm the fuck down. It's just a TV show.
I'm going to shift gears just real quick about another show that I absolutely love that you worked on with Spartacus, and you actually wrote 2 of my favorite episodes. What was that experience like, and was it good to see John Hannah again? Was it good to see him? Yeah.
Yes. I didn't really get to see John Hannah because they were shooting it in New Zealand and we were writing it in Hollywood. So I saw him once at a screening and said hello, but that was that. And John Hannah's wonderful. I love him. So, it's like, let me cast him again sometime. He's almost like he's like an anime character come to life. I mean, his face. You know what I mean?
Oh, his expressions, especially in Spartacus.
Well, just the eyebrows and his eyes and the dimensions of his face and everything. Yeah. He looks like an anime character. He's fantastic. But yeah, Spartacus, he was brilliant. Just brilliant. You
had a good experience writing those episodes because again, like those are 2 of my favorite that you worked on. Like really, really great stuff.
Well, it was really gratifying to actually write an episode called Whore.
Whore, yeah.
where the very title of it is so offensive that when you see it like on the TV guide on the cable, it actually says W, star. And then there's like a line. It's like I can't even write a title that doesn't get censored. Holy shit! But yeah, it was a lot of fun to write, Steve DeKnight, I don't know if he just did some impressionable age, spent a lot of time at Renaissance fairs, but he could just shit that stuff. He would just shit that dialogue. And I've never been on a show where I got my dialogue more rewritten than on Spartacus. But I mean, one of the things I was able to bring to the party, some people say, "Oh yeah, I came on in episode 6 of the first season," and people say, "Well, the show improved when after Knauf came on," and it wasn't really because I was writing; it was more because I was able to free Steve up to do his thing. Oh. And really, I was able to run the room, which enabled Steve to dial it in and do the rewriting. And Steve is quite brilliant. So I guess my presence helped the show, but it helped it in ways people don't really realize. It wasn't about me, suddenly improving the writing because I'm writing. I improved the writing because I was letting Steve write more. But those two episodes were kind of fun. I remember arguing with Steve because he really dug the idea of the money falling out of the guy's belly, out of Spartacus's belly, and I was going, "Oh, please, Steve, let's not do that. I did that already. I mean, people are going to think I'm out of ideas. Can we have something else fall out of him?" I mean, it's just like, how about Oreos? Can we have Oreos fall out of them?
That'd be a great promotional tie-in,
we can even get a product placement. We can have iPhones fall out of them or something. Right?
Yeah, there you go. And you also produce and write for The Blacklist. And
yes.
It seems like every time we have a guest on, he or she's working on a blacklist.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny.
Either on it or working on it.
Right, yeah.
I've been both. It's a great show, and there's a lot of people watching it. Cool. I've never been on a hit before. And I've never been on a show where you do 22 episodes, which is incredibly challenging. But it's nice to go out and people say, well, what do you do? I'm a TV writer. Oh, anything I've seen? Well, I'm working on The Blacklist. And all of a sudden it's like, oh God, you got it. Yeah. I mean, when it was Carnival, I was like Carnival, and they go, Carnival what? And when it was Spartacus, we go, oh yeah, my brother-in-law Earl watches that. But this show, people actually get all excited, I mean, they start engaging you and asking you questions, and it's kind of fun,
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Is there any other secret projects you're working on you want to tell us about? Like, there's a Deadwood movie. When's the Carnival coming out?
Well, this is actually the first time I've talked about it semi-publicly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on the reach of your podcast. I'm actually it's a passion project. I've been world building for like the last 5 years. I created a show called Sleepers. And it's basically set at a university, and it incorporates, the cosmology is Lovecraftian.
Oh.
And it's about about an existential battle that takes place between in a multiverse, and these students are all basically in this thing called sleep studies, which is their way to get into these other universes is through the process of sleep.
Wow.
And it's truly horrific. I mean, it's actually what I wanted to do with it was my daughter grew up on Harry Potter, and so there's a whole generation that understands the tropes of fantasy, and they understand the grammar. And I wanted to write something that was, graphically, it had real horror elements in it, and with mature subject matter, sex and violence, and that's grounded in a certain kind of reality, like Carnivàle has aspects of magic realism. And so this is something that's been in my book. And so I was fortunate enough about 2 years ago, my manager put me together with Wes Craven. And so I had the privilege of actually working with Wes on what turned out to be his final project, which was Sleepers. And so we developed together. I wrote a pilot. I wrote a very, very extensive Bible about the cosmology and how things work in the show, which is kind of like the universal theory of weird. And we just have gone out with it. There's a company, Federation. It's a French company that is ready to go, and we now all we're looking for is domestic distribution. So we've gone out and pitched it, and with any luck, somebody will say yes to this.
Oh, very
cool.
Crazy show.
And with the way that things have changed with Netflix and with Hulu and with Amazon, it's a good time to actually be out there trying to do shows now. Yeah,
it is. But then again, these guys are all getting they're the things. They're always. It doesn't matter when it is or where it is. All of these people are teetering on the brink of no at all times. And yeah, it's true. Because you don't get fired for saying no. You get fired for saying yes. So it's a challenge. And you would think, with the pedigree of the show, I mean, you stop and you go, okay, Lovecraft, Wes Craven, Daniel Knauf. Seems like a good combo, and I mean, even saying to them, I'm going, just think about how do you market this thing? It's like Wes Craven is reaching beyond the veil of death to scare the fuck out of you. It's like, even though he's dead, he's still scaring you.
Oh, that's excellent.
It's like, it's like, come on, let's do this thing already. But it's also very expensive. I mean, it's like Carnival. The scope is Carnival scope, if not even bigger than Carnival scope. And the nice thing about it is I really didn't know much. I didn't know what I was doing when I did Carnival. now I know what I'm doing. But I love it. I love the show and the characters. I mean, it's like it's just I feel like a woman who's been pregnant for 5 years, It's like, I broke water about 2 years ago, for Christ's sake, pull the baby out. I mean, by the time they pull the baby out, it's like all they have to do is put a cap on him, and he can walk himself to the bus stop. But anyway, that's what Dan's up to these days. Is sleeper.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it
Sounds
does.
very awesome. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know we took way more of your time than we intended, and I apologize for that. But you've just been so badass to talk to.
It's been so awesome.
No, are you kidding? I'm talking about myself. That's my favorite subject. No, it's shit. What an asshole I am. Anyway, no, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah,
and really what I do is I just talk until somebody tells me to shut the fuck up.